Right, joining me now, senior reporter Carolyn Marcus out of Sydney, National Affairs editor at the Daily Telegraph too, James Morrow. Well, let's pick up on that fallout from the PM's meeting with Donald Trump and the comments about Kevin Rudd. The PM today pretty blunt when asked about Kevin Rudd's future as ambassador.
Prime Minister, Mr Rudd, by March next year will have served 3 years in the job. Will he continue in the job as ambassador past that point?
Yeah, he's been appointed for 4 years.
Well, there you go. That'll take Rudd to 2027, James. And what then? He takes over as the UN Secretary-General?
Oh, well, you would think that the Prime Minister would be hoping that he would have some sort of gig like Secretary General of the UN lined up, because the last thing he'd want is Kevin Rudd coming back here to Australia in time for the 2028 campaign to start, working on all the sorts of very helpful interventions into politics and policy that were so, popular, that saw him sent overseas in the first place to America, where I have to say it's pretty funny that you said that Americans would find the Kevin Rudd kind of experience endearing. I almost, as an American, want to take you to the Human Rights Commission for that.
I know it's pretty rough, but I mean, I went to school in the States, and if there is a country that loves the foot in the door and the hustle more than America, I've yet to find it. So I think, and I said, he wouldn't work everywhere, but I think he certainly works in Washington, and everybody knows his name. That's not always good if they know your name, but they certainly know his name. Caroline, the Susan Lee call from yesterday wasn't repeated today. Interestingly, that dismissive call she had about views from my backbench. I think she jumped the gun, and I listened to a lot of her colleagues out there today. I mean, Jane Hume was very blunt. Others didn't back her in. They didn't criticise her as much, but they certainly didn't back her in. I think they've got to get back to core business and worry about what's going on in their own party room, and I guess less about Rudd.
Yeah, I think they have more problems within the Liberal Party than worrying about what the ambassador's doing. Look, I understand where Susan Lee was coming from in a respect, because hating on Kevin Rudd has become a bit of a national sport. It sort of unites all sides of the political spectrum. People just enjoy ridiculing him, you know what I mean? We can't deny that there was a good result, and overall it was a good meeting, which is what we should want as Australians. We should want our Prime Minister to have a good meeting with the leader of the free world, our most important ally, and that happened. And Jane Hume has spoken out about giving credit where it's due, that Rudd helped to secure this meeting and also to secure the important rare earth critical minerals deal. And Tony Abbott did too, to his great credit. He's no personal fan of Kevin Rudd, but he stepped up and gave credit for that. However, I don't think we can brush aside either that it did take more than 270 days to get to this point into the president of the US's second term for us to even be able to secure a meeting. So, while many other countries have had multiple meetings with the president. So, yes, Rudd might well be the hardest working ambassador in Washington, D.C., as Albanese put it. But that's because he has to be, because he's made such horrible comments about Trump that the administration would have no doubt been aware of. So he has to work 10 times as hard as anyone else to even get a foot in the door. But he did, and I guess some credit has to go to him for that.
Look, I will blame Kevin Rudd for the fact that the meeting took so long, but I give him credit because I don't think there would have been a rare earths deal done without Rudd. I mean, there's 17 elements there that are rare earth. I don't think our Prime Minister could pronounce even one of the 17. Rudd probably could. He'd know them inside out. So I would put this down to Rudd, absolutely, and that's the mail I'm getting out of the States. So we'll leave it there. Let's go to those comments. Just a moment ago on Chris Kenny's program from Pauline Hanson, asked whether or not Barnaby Joyce would defect to One Nation. Have a listen.
It's not going to happen, Chris. He's not going to be leader of the party, so that's totally out of the question. The fact is, he's not even a member of the party. He has to make that choice himself to finally make the decision. Is he going to come across the One Nation? He did want to see if he got his bill up in the Parliament, which it hasn't been debated yet, and it's quite interesting to see where this is going to go.
So he might want to go, James, but he's not going to go unless he's got some sort of path to the leadership. And Pauline Hanson makes it clear that's not going to happen. So I don't know. It's looking less likely, perhaps.
Well, it's a really sort of bizarre position that we're in now with Barnaby Joyce here, because he said, well, he's going to pull the pin on New England and he's going to leave the party, but he's going to stay in the seat, and he's still in the party. He's going to stay in the party room, and it's like he's sort of 1 foot in and 1 foot out at the moment, because, how is he going to sit in the party room if he's already made these sorts of declarations about leaving? And who's going to trust him? And, it feels sort of like, those sort of couples that get divorced, but they stay in the same house. It kind of sort of has a bit of that sort of feel to it. It just feels very sort of unpleasant and not, like anything anybody would really want to be a part of. The thing is, this has been kicking along for a long time. I've seen reports today in some papers that this has been talked about for months. I saw one report today which suggested that he had been in conversations for at least a year about whether or not to leave. And in some senses, you can't blame him, because he was treated very poorly. He was, told he couldn't campaign outside his own electorate. And yet we've got one of the best retail politicians in this country being essentially silenced. And it's all over this net zero issue. I think that part of this has to go to the leadership of David Littleproud of the Nationals, who has seen a number of MPs already leave his party room, and all over this, partially all over this net zero issue, which they really need to resolve, because this is, if there's not an issue that the Nationals, who represent rural and regional Australia, need to stand up on, I mean, it is this which is smashing these communities with the power lines and the solar farms and the wind and everything else. I don't know how they haven't come to a resolution on this yet.
I will make the point that Barnaby Joyce was the leader of the Nationals when this was signed off under Scott Morrison. The Nats didn't like it, but they capitulated. So maybe this is Barnaby doing some sort of, great mea culpa here. But if he leaves the coalition, let me tell you, the party room will change dramatically on this issue, because there's a push by the moderates basically to expunge from the party all the Conservatives. We'll see what that looks like. I don't think it's going to look like much in terms of ever getting back into power, but others will beg to differ.